Back to our top story. Public Enterprises Minister Gordhan insists that the public protector, Busisiwe Mkhwebane, isn't fit to hold office. The North Gauteng High Court yesterday suspended the implementation of Mkhwebane's sanction against him. The judge described parts of the remedial action as vague and nonsensical. Mkhwebane directed the president to take action against Gordhan for establishing an intelligence unit within the South African Revenue Service. Gordhan's lawyer, Tebego Malachi, joins me now. Very good to have you with us. Tebego Malachi. So, another busy day. Gordhan's back in court, this time with the president, possibly on his side. What can we expect?
Well, today, today's matter has been elevated to the office of the deputy judge president. He wants to manage it in the sense that the amount of paper that's involved in the case requires a special allocation. So, but for this interview, I'd be in his chambers.
Well, thank you for being here. Yeah, we appreciate that.
To determine what happens to the matter. Is it going to be had today, later in the week, allocated to a special court, possibly a full bench?
Okay, if you could tell us in layman's terms exactly what that means, where it's going to leave both Gordhan and potentially the president.
Well, in layman's terms, you could say the president's hand has been forced in the sense that, if you remember, the report says discipline Minister Gordhan for the early retirement, saga. And she says, submit a remedial action plan of how you're going to discipline him within 30 days. He then says to her that my plan is to await the outcome of the court review because I have now received court papers from Minister Gordhan. And she says to him, no, you shall not. You shall discipline him by the 12th of July. I mean, his hand was literally forced. He had no option but to approach the courts to say, well, suspend the remedial action pending the outcome of a due process, which is a review application.
All right. Let's go back then to yesterday, a success for you and Minister Gordhan. I mean, how do you think it played out? Obviously, it's divided many people, it's divided many parties. Clearly, it was the right thing from your point of view.
Well, yeah, the sad part of it is the race element. Really, it's very sad. If you read the judgment, or if you were in court, or you had regard to it on TV.
And so you're talking about EFF's Floyd Chivambu saying that it was a racist judgment and saying that...
Well, I mean, not only that, but I think his colleague, Dr. Ndlozi, also, characterized the judgment as particularly racial in the sense that black lawyers were antagonized and white lawyers were embraced. And that is just simply not correct. I sat in that court, and what the judge was inditing with is no extraordinary event in any other case.
Why do you think the race issue was brought up? I mean, is it an easy one? Is it an easy one to get people incredibly wound up and possibly divert attention?
We pull the race card, unfortunately, in South Africa at occasions which are not justified. There may be others that are justified, but in this case, I was a black lawyer sitting in that court, and I can tell you now, no race factor played in court or in the judgment itself. It's very well reasoned. You may disagree with it as a different party. Obviously, we agree with it because we were successful. But others
could it have an adverse impact, the fact that it's been raised and obviously has taken hold in some quarters?
No, I think not. I think not, because we must measure that judgment by its quality, nothing else. No race factor, no black advocate, no white advocate arguments, just by its quality. You read it, and you may disagree with it, but you will see no race factor in it. And secondly, and most importantly, in that court, none of such racial connotations played themselves out. And it is, to our mind, a different, articulation from what actually transpired in court.
And if you read into some of the documents that have been submitted, I mean, how personal is this an issue between Pravin Gordhan and the public protector? I mean, what really is going on here? If you could give us a bit of insight into this background here.
Well, I mean, you know me. I don't delve into any other space other than legal. But, of course, as between ourselves, as ministers, legal representatives, and her office, there's obviously been an exchange of correspondence, and there have been utterances made by me in particular, and by Adrian Lakay at occasions, which may have upset her, in the sense that we have brought to question legal issues, nothing more. And I mean, you heard the judge.
And why would she get upset about?
The most interesting thing is, you know, in this entire case, is we castigated for using language, strong language in our court papers. But let me give you an example. For instance, we say she doesn't have jurisdiction. Do you know that her own senior counsel didn't advocate for why she has jurisdiction? And the court finds that the EFF tried very hard, for that matter, to advocate jurisdiction on her behalf when her own counsel didn't do so. And we get castigated because we would have raised that issue with her and say, why are you investigating a matter older than 2 years, in fact, older than a decade, and give us special circumstances? We don't get an answer, not from her and not in court, you know, and
so you wonder the sensitivity. Were you surprised to find out that the Deputy Public Protector claimed that he really was exempt from many of the discussions surrounding a lot of her work?
Well, it was an interesting story that broke out yesterday evening. We're not aware of that. We're obviously not privy to the workings of the Office of the Public Protector.
But what does it suggest? I mean, is she out on her own? I mean, who's advising her?
You're asking me something that's out of my realm, in the realm of lawyers.
But if you were to speculate.
We deal with facts,
yes.
Fact and law. And from a factual perspective, remember that she is ultimately the public protector. So whatever decision she makes and whatever report she releases is her report as the appointed public protector. What the deputy has to say about how the office works or not is really, from our perspective, not material to the matters that we're taking on review.
And where does this leave her position, do you think?
Well, look, in the end, and I've always said this, in the end, her work and her, in particular, as incumbent, not the office, as incumbent, will be measured by what the courts say on review of her work, because her work, like every other public functionary, is subject to review by the courts. So whatever the courts eventually express as their view of the work she's done will ultimately measure her in terms of whether she's fit for office or not. It's not our case, by the way. It's not our case, really, that she must be removed from office. Our case is that her findings are wrong, in fact, and in law, and those court cases, as they come and go, will determine, I suppose,
Thank you. I'll let you go and do your other job.
Yes.
Thank you very much.